I found out my wife was pregnant the same way you find out your house is on fire. Someone else calmly points at the smoke. While you're still holding a coffee. We've been married 5 years. No kids yet. Not yet, because that's what she always said. We weren't perfect, but I thought we were solid. We had routines. Sunday groceries. Trash night. That dumb show we both hated. But still watched. The kind of boring. That felt safe. Then one random Tuesday, I'm walking into our kitchen and she's standing there with her phone pressed to her chest like it's a weapon. Eyes red. Face doing that tight smile that means she's about to perform. I need to tell you something, she says. I'm thinking, debt. An accident. Maybe she got fired. Normal adult disasters. She takes a breath like she's about to win an Oscar. I'm pregnant. My brain does that thing where it tries to celebrate before the rest of the sentence arrives. I actually smiled. I stepped forward. I said, "Are you serious?" She nods, tears running, and for 2 seconds I was pure happiness. I hugged her. I said all the right things. And then she adds, very softly, like she's dropping a glass, "But it's not yours." I swear the room tilted. I pulled back and looked at her, waiting for the punchline. There wasn't one. She wouldn't meet my eyes. I asked one question, because it was the only question my body could form, how? She started talking too fast. Like if she sprinted through the explanation, I wouldn't be able to tackle it. It was a mistake. It didn't mean anything. It was one time. I didn't know. I didn't plan it. I was going to tell you. I didn't want to lose you. I didn't even hear most of it. My ears were ringing. My hands felt numb. I remember staring at the fridge magnet that said "Home Sweet Home" and thinking, this is a scam. I told her to sit down. She did. She looked small, almost fragile. It was weird, because she's not fragile. She's the kind of woman who argues with customer service until the universe apologizes. So this version of her, soft, shaking, felt rehearsed. I asked who. She hesitated like she was deciding if honesty was worth it. Then she said a name that made my stomach drop for a different reason. Ethan. Not a stranger. Not a coworker I'd never met. Ethan was a friend. The kind of friend you're told not to worry about. The kind that always shows up when I'm not there. The kind that laughed too hard at her jokes and touched her shoulder in a way that made my skin crawl, but I told myself I was being paranoid because I didn't want to be that guy. I asked her how long. She said, it wasn't like that. I said, how long? She whispered, since December. It was March. I felt my heartbeat in my throat. I didn't yell. I didn't punch a wall. I didn't do anything dramatic. I just stood there, staring at my wife. My wife, pregnant with another man's baby, telling me she didn't want to lose me. Then came the part that made me realize this wasn't a confession. It was a negotiation. She wiped her face and said, I still want us. I want our marriage. I want you to be there when the baby comes. You'd be such a good dad. I literally laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was absurd in the way a car crash is absurd. You want me to raise Ethan's kid, I said. She snapped, just for a second. The real her flashed through. It's not Ethan's kid. It's a baby. It's innocent. That's when I understood what she was doing. She wasn't begging for forgiveness. She was building a box and trying to fold me into it. I asked if Ethan knew. She said yes. I asked what he wanted. She said, he wants to be involved, but he can't give me stability. And there it was. The truth. I wasn't her husband in that moment. I was her plan. That night I slept in the guest room. Not because I couldn't stand to be near her, though I couldn't, but because I needed to hear my own thoughts without her voice trying to overwrite them. I stared at the ceiling until 4 a.m., replaying the past few months like surveillance footage. The girls' nights. The sudden gym obsession. The new underwear that wasn't for me. The way she'd angle her phone away when she texted. The way she'd accuse me of being cold when I asked normal questions. I remembered how she'd pick fights before leaving the house. How she'd make me feel guilty so I wouldn't call. And the worst part? I realized she didn't just cheat. She set the stage so I'd blame myself. The next morning, I walked past her without speaking. She tried to grab my arm. "Please," she said. "Don't do something you'll regret." I looked at her belly, still flat, still early, and I felt something inside me click into place. Not rage. Not grief. Clarity. I said, "I'm not the one who needs to worry about regret." And then I did the first thing I should have done months ago. I checked the phone bill. Because I suddenly remembered, our account had shared records. And what I saw made my hands start shaking all over again. Not just Ethan's number. Dozens of late-night calls. Long ones. Some on nights she told me she was out with Jenna. Some on nights she told me she fell asleep early. And mixed in, like a knife hidden in the dishwater, were calls to a clinic. Repeatedly. 4 weeks. I didn't know what it meant yet. But I knew one thing. My wife's confession wasn't the full story. It was the version that benefited her. So I decided I was done being the person she could edit. I didn't confront her right away. I know Reddit loves the big explosive moment, but I needed facts. Real ones. Not her tearful, carefully curated narrative. So I did something I've never done in our marriage. I started collecting receipts. First, I called in sick to work. I stayed home while she left for her appointment. She kissed my cheek like we were normal. I watched her walk out wearing that calm face people use when they think they've handled the problem. The second her car left the driveway, I felt sick. I logged into our shared computer and checked what I could without crossing legal lines. Email was locked down. Social media was a minefield. But the phone bill was real, and it was screaming. Those clinic calls. They lined up perfectly with the weeks she'd been moody and tired. The weeks she'd blamed on stress. The weeks she'd picked fights out of nowhere, then cried when I didn't comfort her the exact right way. Then I noticed something else. A second number, saved nowhere, but called constantly. Short bursts. Multiple times a day. Like coordination. I googled the number. It belonged to Ethan's workplace. So she wasn't just calling him. She was calling him at work. Which made her little, it was a mistake, speech feel even more insulting. Next step, timeline. If she was pregnant in March, and this started in December, okay, fine, that could fit. But why the clinic calls in January? February? My brain kept circling one thought, what if she thought she was pregnant earlier? That same afternoon, she came home with a folder. She set it on the kitchen counter like it was a peace offering. "I brought the ultrasound paperwork," she said. "Ultrasound. Already." I kept my face neutral. "Okay." She slid it toward me, eyes searching my face. She wanted to see if I'd soften. I looked at the date. It wasn't from today. It was from almost 3 weeks ago. I looked up. "You said you just found out." She blinked fast. I meant I just decided to tell you. So she'd known for weeks. She'd been sleeping next to me, letting me make her coffee, letting me talk about our future, while she held this secret like a loaded gun. I asked, "What do you want from me?" She exhaled like she'd been waiting for this question. "I want us to stay married," she said. "I want you to be the baby's father. On paper. In life. I want us to move forward." I said, "And Ethan?" Her jaw tightened. "Ethan is complicated." Translation, Ethan is fun, but not safe. Then she hit me with the line that turned my blood cold. "If you leave, you'll ruin everything." Not, "I'll be heartbroken." Not, "I'm sorry." "You'll ruin everything." Like I was the villain for refusing to be used. That night, while she showered, I noticed her phone on the couch. Face down, as always. But it lit up with a message preview. From Ethan. It said, "Did he buy it?" That was it. 4 words. But they answered every question I had. This wasn't messy. This wasn't guilt. This was a plan. I didn't open her phone. I didn't need to. The preview was enough, and I didn't want evidence that would be considered obtained improperly. I just took a photo of the screen with my phone, time, date, sender, message. Then I sat there, listening to the shower run, feeling like I was in someone else's life. The next day I booked a consultation with a family lawyer. Quietly. During lunch. In a parking lot. I told the lawyer the basics. Marriage. Infidelity. Pregnancy. Possible paternity issues. Assets. The lawyer didn't flinch. She said, "Do not move out yet. Do not agree to anything verbally. Do not sign anything. And do not assume the baby is his without proof." Then she asked me something that made my throat go dry. "Has she asked you to sign a paternity acknowledgement or anything similar?" "Not yet," I said. The lawyer nodded like she'd seen this movie before. "She might," she said. "And if you sign, you could be legally on the hook regardless of biology, depending on your state. We need to be careful." I went home and looked at my wife like she was a stranger wearing my wife's face. Over the next few days, she turned up the manipulation in waves. 1 hour she was crying, saying she loved me. The next hour she was angry, saying I was abandoning her. Then she was sweet again, rubbing my arm, talking about baby names like I was already trapped. And the whole time, Ethan kept texting. I saw previews like, "Tell him we can do this the easy way." And, "Make sure he doesn't talk to anyone." It started to hit me, they weren't just hoping I'd stay. They were trying to lock me in legally before I could run. Then came the moment I stopped feeling sad and started feeling focused. She sat across from me at dinner and said, "We should tell your parents soon." "I don't want rumors." I said, "Tell them what?" "That we're having a baby," she said, like it was normal. Like the baby wasn't a grenade sitting between us. I smiled. For the first time in days. And she looked relieved, because she thought that smile meant I'd surrendered. But it wasn't surrender. It was the moment I realized I could beat her at her own game. Because if she wanted to control the story, then I would control the timing. I said, "Yeah. Let's tell people soon." Her eyes lit up. "Really?" "Really," I said. And I went to bed that night with a plan. Not a violent plan. Not a cruel plan. A clean plan. One that used the truth like a scalpel. If you're expecting me to scream at her in the kitchen and throw her clothes on the lawn, you're going to be disappointed. My revenge wasn't loud. It was precise. Step 1 was protection. I opened a new bank account in my name only, totally legal, and redirected my paycheck there. I didn't drain joint accounts. I didn't hide money. I just stopped feeding a system she was using against me. Step 2 was documentation. I wrote down dates. Statements she made. The ultrasound date. The clinic call pattern. Ethan's, "Did he buy it?" message preview photo. I emailed copies to myself and saved them where she couldn't casually delete them. Step 3 was the anchor, paternity. I told my lawyer everything. She told me what I could and couldn't do. The goal wasn't destroy her. The goal was, don't let her destroy me. Meanwhile, my wife kept acting like I was slowly coming back to her. She'd brush against me in the hallway. She'd make my favorite meals. She'd talk about our family. It was sick. And it was also incredibly useful, because it made her careless. A week after her confession, she said, "Ethan wants to talk." I almost laughed. "Why?" I asked. "He just wants to, be mature about it," she said, like this was a business merger. I told her, "Sure. We can talk. But not here." Her brows knit. "Where then?" I said, "Neutral place. Coffee shop." She hesitated, then nodded. Because she wanted to look reasonable. She wanted the image of 3 adults handling a complicated situation. So I set the meeting. Not for the coffee shop. For my lawyer's office. I didn't tell her that part. I told her, "Let's meet Friday at 3. She agreed. Friday came. She dressed like she was going to a job interview. Calm. Controlled. She kept saying, "We'll get through this." We drove separately. She texted me a heart emoji when she arrived. I walked in and saw Ethan sitting in the waiting area. He looked exactly like you imagine a guy named Ethan would look when he thinks he's winning, confident, clean, smug in a quiet way. My wife went to hug him. He let her. Like I wasn't there. Then he looked at me and said, "Man. This is tough. But we can handle it." I repeated. My wife squeezed my hand like we were a team. Like I was her husband again. "Yeah," she said. "We just have to do what's best." Then the lawyer opened the door and said my name. My wife blinked. "Why is a lawyer here?" I said, "Because I'm done playing pretend." Ethan's face tightened. "What is this?" We went into the office. My wife sat close to me. Ethan sat across, leaning back like he was still trying to look unbothered. My lawyer didn't waste time. She said, "We're here to discuss dissolution of marriage and legal protections regarding paternity." My wife's face went pale. "Dissolution? No, we said we were working on it." I kept my voice calm. "You said that." She turned to me with panic and anger mixing together. "You promised me." I said, "I promised to listen." And I did. Then Ethan spoke up, trying to take control. "Look, man, no one wants drama. She's pregnant. She needs support. You can still be the father figure." My lawyer cut him off. She slid a document across the table. "It is in my client's best interest that no paternity acknowledgement is signed," she said. "We will be requesting a court-ordered paternity test if necessary, and until then, my client will not be treated as a presumed father beyond what the law already dictates." My wife started crying. Real tears now. Not performance. Ethan's jaw clenched. "This is messed up." I said, "What's messed up is you texting her, 'Did he buy it?' while she's telling me she loves me." My wife froze. Ethan's eyes flicked to her. And in that flick, just that tiny moment, everything cracked. Because he didn't deny it. He just looked irritated that I knew. My wife whispered, You took my phone." "I saw the message preview," I said. "That's all I needed." She turned on Ethan like a switch flipped. "You said we had time." Ethan snapped back, "I said you needed to handle him." There it was. Not romance. Not love. A strategy session. My lawyer let them unravel for a full minute. Then she calmly placed another paper in front of my wife. Divorce petition. My wife stared at it like it was written in a foreign language. "You're doing this to me?" she said, voice shaking. I leaned forward and said quietly, "No. I'm responding to what you did to me." She tried one last move. "If you do this, I'll tell everyone you abandoned me while I'm pregnant." I nodded. "Go ahead." She blinked. "What?" "Because I'm going to tell them the truth," I said. "With dates." Ethan stood up like he might storm out. "This is unbelievable." My lawyer looked at him and said, "You're free to leave. This is not your marriage." He hesitated, because he wanted control, and then he left anyway. My wife stayed, shaking, crying, whispering, "Please." And I felt it, deep, deep in my chest. Not triumph. Relief. Because the trap worked. Not to humiliate her in public. To stop her from trapping me. But the beautiful part. It wasn't done yet. The hardest part wasn't the divorce paperwork or the paternity test. It was realizing how close I came to disappearing inside someone else's lie. After the meeting with the lawyer, my wife didn't suddenly become honest or reflective. She cycled through every move left in her playbook. First tears. Then anger. Then guilt. "You're punishing an innocent baby," she said. I answered calmly, "I'm refusing to pretend a lie is love." That's when the mask slipped completely. "If you do this," she hissed, "I'll tell people you abandoned me. I'll say whatever I have to say." And in that moment, all doubt died. Anyone who threatens to destroy you to save themselves was never on your side. I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I simply stopped engaging emotionally. I documented everything. I told my family the truth, briefly, factually, without drama. And something unexpected happened. They believed me. Not because I showed receipts or dragged her name through the mud, but because I wasn't trying to control the story. I was just telling it. A few weeks later, the paternity test came back. Not mine. Seeing it in black and white didn't hurt the way I expected. It felt like closure snapping shut. Final. Clean. She cried in the driveway when she came to collect the last of her things. "I never meant to hurt you," she said. I looked at her and thought about that message from Ethan. Did he buy it? And I realized something important. Intent doesn't erase impact. Love doesn't coexist with manipulation. And choosing yourself is not revenge. My revenge, if you want to call it that, was refusing to be the backup plan. Refusing to raise another man's child under a lie. Refusing to let someone rewrite me as the villain so they could feel like the hero. I didn't destroy her life. I stepped out of a story that was never written for my benefit. And for the first time since that Tuesday in the kitchen, I'm not surviving. I'm free. If this story shocked you, subscribe for real stories about betrayal, secrets, and courtroom karma. And watch the video on your screen. It's just as insane.